Howdy partners, the vast majority of fictional stories in film and literature home in on particular aspects of humanity and explore them in detail. But what the Coen brothers appear to have done with their seventh feature film, The Big Lebowski, is to take a variety of broad themes such as religion, politics, war and feminism, and explored their complex interactions in the bigger, wider world. From start to finish, the film bounces from one thematic extreme to another, sometimes in a matter of seconds, and it frequently explores multiple themes simultaneously. The themes of Big Lebowski extend far beyond its narrative setting. The crafty opening shot fools us by panning over desert terrain, with credits appearing in a saloon-style font. Any first-time viewer could easily assume they're about to watch a western, but the shot pans up to reveal the cityscape of Los Angeles. Hints of a Wild West subtext are scattered across the film, such as Dude's comment to Walter about the Chinaman.
Walter, this isn't a guy who built the railroads here. This is a guy...
What the fuck are you...
Or the writer of the Western TV show Branded, who is kept alive in some sort of iron lung, a bit like the dying Wild West mythology itself.
Branded, especially the early episodes, was truly a source of inspiration.
Dude also sings the Branded theme song in the back of a police car after the second dream sequence.
And they say he ran away. Branded!
But the Wild West isn't the only alternative context that is being touched upon. The universal nature of the film is stated in the opening narration.
Of course, I can't say I've seen London, and I've never been to France, and I ain't never seen no queen in her damn Dundies, as the fella says. But I'll tell you what, after seeing Los Angeles, and this here story I'm about to unfold, well, I guess I've seen something every bit as stupefying as you'd see in any of those other places. I guess that's the way the whole darn human comedy keeps perpetuating itself down through the generations, westward the wagons, across the sands of time until we... Oh, look at me. I'm rambling again.
The Cowboys' closing words are one of the rare occasions that the Coen brothers have openly expressed their intentions as filmmakers. They are audience educators, fierce intellectuals who bring authenticity to their stories with careful research. They never seem to be promoting any specific worldview, perhaps other than it's a crazy world. Their wacky sense of humour, while undoubtedly authentic, further disguises their artistic motives. So for those who find it difficult to reconcile humour with genuine art, a film like Big Lebowski will merely confuse, as it did with most critics, and a lot of audiences. But as demonstrated by the Marx Brothers and Monty Python, humour has, across the generations, served as an excellent platform for uninhibited social commentary. When the Coen brothers make movies in which humour is de-emphasised, for example No Country for Old Men, Fargo and Miller's Crossing, their films are more like clinical studies of human behaviour. It's rare that they encourage us to identify emotionally with characters. Even lead characters are presented with obvious imperfections. Our knowledge of those imperfections that the characters cannot recognise in themselves holds us even more firmly in the position of casual observer, where we are free to watch with interest and amusement. In Big Lebowski, the Dude is a prime example of this paradigm. He appears in virtually every scene, and so has as much information about the unfolding story as we have. Yet we consistently find amusement in his perceptual mistakes and inability to predict the obvious.
Are you gonna find these guys, or, you got any promising, leads, or...
Sure. I'll, just check with the boys down at the crime lab. They, got, 4 more detectives working on the case. Leads.
The only 2 pieces of information we're offered that Dude is denied are A. the nihilist sitting in the cafe with one of their girlfriends missing a toe, and B. Bunny speeding down the motorway in her Corvette with all her toes intact. Nevertheless, Dude still comes off as something of an idiot.
In the briefcase?
My papers, business papers.
And what do you do, sir?
I'm unemployed.
He and Walter try to interrogate a 15-year-old dunce about the missing $1 million, and after Walter smashes the kid's sports car, only to find out that it's the neighbour's car, Dude still thinks the kid has the $1 million and reports this to Jackie Treehorn.
Your money is being held by a kid named Larry Sellers. He lives in North Hollywood on Radford, by the In-N-Out Burger.
And in the HD version of the film we can see that he has UFO books in his apartment and even a magic 8-ball, revealing his tendency towards somewhat moronic ideas about reality, but which also is likely cross-symbolised with the bowling balls in his local bowling alley. Hence there's also a mini Skittle on his table as well. And a book called Space, which might be a joke about his recreational drug use. And even though he has no kids, he amusingly has next to his bathtub rubber ducky toys and a smiley face bottle of Mr. Bubble. The one trait of the dude that is presented in a positive light is his casual impartiality, which as noted seems to be the Coen brothers' own stance as writers.
It's good knowing he's out there, the dude, taking her easy for all us sinners.
As the casual observer, the dude is a total reversal of hero archetypes. Heroes are typically seen as interventionists, people who respond to injustice by using the traits of strength, courage and intellect to set the world straight. Even though the dude lacks these attributes, he has become an iconic figure in modern American film. Check out the many fan sites for Big Lebowski and you'll find that the dude is admired and respected specifically for challenging the tired hero archetypes. The dude's appeal could be passed off as a promotion of bone idle laziness, but there's more to him than that. Take his obsession with the rug. When the Chinaman undoes his pants, dude says,
Not on the rug, man.
as if it would be acceptable for him to urinate anywhere else in the room. Dude's contentment with the new rug from the Lebowski mansion rules out any particular sentimental attachment to his original rug, unlike Maud, who had bought her rug as a gift to her mother. As Maud tries to engage him on the subject of sex, he is disinterested.
Excuse me?
Sex, the physical act of love, coitus. Do you like it?
I was talking about my rug.
You're not interested in sex?
When he's offered $20,000 to deliver ransom money to a group of supposed kidnappers, he tells Walter,
20 grand, man. And of course, I still get to keep the rug.
Just for making the handoff?
Yeah.
even when Maud offers him $100,000 to recover the stolen money, he still prioritises the rug.
Yeah, but my...
I'm getting to your rug. My father and I don't get along.
What about my...
Your rug, yes. Well, with that money, you can buy any number of rugs that don't have sentimental value for me.
Jackie Treehorn later offers him a 10% deal on finding the money, and after being spiked, Dude mumbles his simple motive again as he loses consciousness.
All the dude ever wanted was his rug back.
So with all these financial opportunities on the table, what's with the rug obsession? We have Dude's repeated emphasis that the rug really tied the room together.
Yeah, man, it really tied the room together. This rug I have, it really tied the room together.
That rug really tied the room together, did it not?
Fucking A.
But there are clues of a deeper meaning. On the two occasions in which we see the dude relaxing in his apartment, he is shown first standing on the rug with one foot in the air in a meditative balancing act, and second he is seen laying on the rug listening to an audio tape of bowling balls and bouncing skittles. As Dude listens to the tape, his arms make meditative gestures, mimicking the activity of bowling. The dude is definitely not a materialist, so this rug obsession is most likely symbolic. It seems that the rug represents the dude's spiritual well-being, his ability to remain calm in an absurd world. The connections to spiritual meditation are emphasized in the first dream sequence. Dude is seen chasing after Maud, who is flying away toward the sun on his rug. This magic flying carpet image is perhaps giving us a glimpse of Dude's internal meditative world. While lying on the rug, he can mentally take himself anywhere he wishes to go. And the absence of comfortable furniture in his apartment implies that he spends a great deal of time on his rug, enjoying these meditative states. We don't get to see Dude's original rug in close-up, but its replacement from the Lebowski mansion is described in the script as, quote, a large, brilliant Persian rug, end quote. There might even be some significance in this regarding the film's broader take on cultural aspects of the West. The dude's tendency toward Eastern philosophies is also communicated in other prop and costume details, and he has a t-shirt with a picture of a Japanese baseball player named Kaoru Beto. The writing on the shirt refers to the Bodhi tree, under which legend has it that the Buddha attained enlightenment. So like with bowling, we are again finding competitive sports associated to meditation. In the grander scheme of the story, Dude also represents the flower power movement of the 1960s, just as other characters represent different generations, economic classes, and ideological and religious movements. The wheelchair-bound Lebowski represents ambition, greed, materialism, and the pursuit of status. He also represents the upper financial crust of society and the political establishment.
Mr. Lebowski is in seclusion in the West Wing.
Of course, the presidential officers of the White House are in the West Wing. The characters make verbal note of the little Lebowski urban achievers, obviously one of those self-promoting false charity things that we see so often from businessmen today, who often aren't nearly as nice as they advertise themselves as being. But look closely at the photo. Lebowski is amusingly positioned in the foreground, thus making him the centre of attraction rather than the kids he supposedly cares about. And they're all arranged like a set of bowling pins, with Lebowski the first in line to be knocked down. Lebowski and the Dude are also in direct opposition to each other. Despite all of Lebowski's grand and expensive attempts to big himself up, Dude sees through him before they even meet. As Brand is taking Dude to look at the various self-promotional plaques in Lebowski's office, Dude is getting a feel of who Lebowski really is by asking lots of awkward questions and by touching the plaques with his hands, which Brand disapproves of. Dude then sees himself reflected in a Time magazine mirror plaque with the caption, "Are you a Lebowski achiever?" But it takes him a moment to recognise himself. That and their shared name also suggest that these two men sort of represent two sides of the same psychological coin, the self-asserting and self-promoting egotist versus the chilled-out and non-aggressive pacifist. Or we could just say that the Dude is too stoned to realise that it's a mirror.
This is the study. As you can see, the various commendations, awards,
Jeffrey
citations,
Lebowski.
honorary degrees, etc.
Tell you the truth, Brand, I don't remember most of it.
Oh.
Okay, so you're a Lebowski, I'm a Lebowski. That's terrific.
Brand represents those who slavishly bend to the egos of the establishment in the interest of their own self-promotion, even burying their own true identity in the process. Notice that facially, Brand and Lebowski look very much alike. Whenever Brand is faced with something that conflicts with his role of promoting Mr. Lebowski's image, he resorts to false laughter before quickly changing the subject. But back to the two Lebowskis. The wheelchair-bound Lebowski is a very angry, aggressive and hateful man, which is again the opposite of the Dude. His efforts at bloating his own image veer into the ridiculous, such as playing dramatic classical music as he sits before a giant fireplace, pretending to be deep in thought. He fakes tears and tells Lebowski,
Strong men also cry.
he pays the price for this deception when his ransom money scam, if it even was a scam, is exposed by the bum that he thought he could pin it on. He ends up laying on the floor in front of the fireplace, this time shedding real tears, and the only sympathy on offer is the little pooch licking his face. Lebowski's lavish and false presentation of himself is drastically paralleled by Dude in the following dialogue.
You figured, oh, here's a loser, you know, a deadbeat, somebody the square community won't give a shit about.
Well, aren't ya?
Well, yeah.
A similar piece of dialogue appears in the script, but not in the final cut of the film. The Malibu police chief asks Dude, "What are you, some sort of sad-ass refugee from the 60s? To which Dude simply replies, "Uh-huh." Unlike Lebowski, Dude has no need for external verification of his own sense of identity.
I am not Mr. Lebowski. You're Mr. Lebowski. I'm the Dude.
By choosing his own name rather than the one society handed out to him, he's chosen his own identity. He knows who he is, and he's happy with himself. And that's something all the wealth in the world can never compensate for. The only time Dude slips up regarding his birth name is in the mortuary when he introduces himself.
Francis Donnelly, pleased to meet you.
Jeff Lebowski.
Alter subject.
The Dude actually is,
Excuse me?
oh, no.
So being that there are two Lebowskis in the story, which one does the film's title, The Big Lebowski, refer to? You take your pick. One interesting little detail, which may or may not be tied in with these mixed up identity themes, is that when Dude's car was stolen, it was parked in a handicapped zone. The battle between the two Lebowskis can be viewed as a metaphor of the never-ending conflict between power-obsessed materialists and their spiritualist opposites such as the hippie movement. Other characters in the film seem to be playing out different ideological conflicts which permeate human civilization. Walter Sobchak represents the military mind, preoccupied with simplistic justifications of war with foreign cultures and always ready to resort to premature violence. When Dude picks him up to drop off the money to the supposed kidnappers, we see Walter stood outside a store called Sobchak Security. The letters SS, ironically, tie in with the Nazis. Obviously security is his line of work, and it has a logo, Peace of Mind. Denial is Walter's weak point. Whenever Dude pushes him on an issue he doesn't want to deal with, he resorts to whatever simplistic and convenient logic he can muster up, and if that doesn't work, he emotionally explodes on an innocent bystander on a completely different issue. He is almost never able to admit being wrong, even though he is wrong virtually all the time. The prime example of Walter's moronic behaviour is when Dude tries to tell him a few home truths about bringing his ex-wife's dog to the bowling alley. Walter then immediately flips out and pulls a gun on a bowling competitor. Another example is in the cafe. Dude tells Walter about the severed toe, but Walter replies,
That wasn't her toe, dude.
When Dude presses him on the subject of the toe, Walter begins shouting and gets into a First Amendment argument with the waitress. Yet another example is when Walter makes a mess of the handoff to the kidnappers. He casually brushes the event off.
Ah, fuck it, dude. Let's go bowling.
Dude then continues in the bowling alley to press him about the fate of the kidnapped Bunny Lebowski. Walter claims with no foundation that he is 100% certain that she kidnapped herself. As Dude tries to question this, Walter flips out about the next league game conflicting with the Jewish day of rest. All these outbursts serve as a convenient way for Walter to avoid anything he doesn't wish to face up to. He makes a mess of virtually every situation. The funniest and most ironic has to be him smashing up a complete stranger's new car while screaming at the top of his voice,
You see what happens, Larry, when you fuck a stranger in the ass?
Only a couple of scenes earlier, when planning the moronic interrogation of Larry Sellers, who has nothing to do with the stolen money, he told Dude,
Our fucking troubles are over, dude.
He even makes a mess of scattering Donnie's ashes, and at this point the script states, quote, Walter for the first time is genuinely distressed, end quote. But even then his answer is,
Hey, fuck it, man.
Ironically, fuck it is an attitude often taken by the Dude.
Oh, fuck it.
Oh, fuck it. Yes, that's your answer. That's your answer to everything. Tattoo it on your forehead.
So maybe there's a little of the Dude in Walter too. For all his faults and cuckoo land logic, Walter does make himself useful in fighting the nihilists, just as once in a while in human history warmongers make use of themselves, such as when we fought the Nazis. But in this particular instance, even that could have been avoided if the trio had handed over a small amount of pocket change. If Walter hadn't insisted on picking a fight, Donnie would have lived. Walter is also converted to the Jewish faith and has several clashes with a bowling competitor called the Jesus, so even religious conflict is being played out through these characters. However, it's a mystery as to whether Walter was accurate or even serious when he described the Jesus as a convicted pedophile, or paedophile as we pronounce it here in Britain. His claim that the Jesus had to knock door to door in Hollywood telling each household of his conviction sounds quite ridiculous and suggests that, as usual, Walter doesn't know what he's talking about. However, much to my surprise, when I originally had this review posted in text form on my website, several readers emailed and informed me that some states in the US actually do require convicted sex offenders to knock door to door and inform their neighbours. I don't know if that's actually true, but if it is, ouch. The notion of the Jesus being a paedophile might be a reference to the many instances of sexual abuse often found to be going on within religious institutions, and extravagant gold jewellery on the Jesus might even be a reference to Vatican wealth. He also has a long nail on his little finger, which in some cultures is taken as a sign of elitism, but also here in the West it's sometimes used as a cocaine scoop. Maud and Bunny Lebowski, while also being very different to each other, are strong, independent women. One uses her sexuality to get whatever she wants from any man she wants, and the other is capable of fulfilling all her own needs without men, the only exception being her use of the Dude for conception. And no doubt when she and her friend were laughing at the Dude while they were on the phone and speaking in another language, they were laughing about the fact that the Dude was about to be used for conception. This all parallels the huge shifts in gender roles since the 1960s. The modern man is no longer the breadwinner, and as such his sense of purpose and masculinity has been drastically reduced. We'll return to that theme shortly. Then we have the nihilists who proudly claim to believe in nothing, as if it means something. A particular clue as to their psychological dilemma is that their Autobahn album is called Nagelbett, which is German for nail bed, and the cover art shows the three men standing in a vast bed of nails. However, in the dude's first glimpse of their leader, Karl Hungus, he is seen comfortably floating on an inflatable bed in a swimming pool. So this is likely a hint that his twisted bad guy persona is as fake as the rich Lebowskis. The film is packed with other references to politics and ideological movements, many of which draw a parallel between the hypocrisies of the Vietnam War and the Iraq War, the Gulf War that is, the original one in 1990. On Dude's living room wall above his drinks cabinet is a poster of Richard Nixon bowling. Dude certainly wouldn't be an admirer of Nixon's pro-war policies, so perhaps he views him as his ultimate bowling competitor. Nixon was a key political figure in America's involvement in Vietnam. We also see George Bush Sr. announcing the decision to go to war in the Gulf in the 1990s. As Dude cynically observes this news report, he signs his check September 11th, 1991. And no, that's not an advance warning about the World Trade Center attacks which came 10 years later. It's much more likely a reference to Bush's New World Order speech given on September 11th in 1991, though some online sources claim it was 1990. And don't worry, I'm not going to go all conspiracy on you here. The New World Order is basically a catchphrase used by globalists and imperialists, particularly in America and Europe. Also on Dude's check, the amount he is paying is 69 cents, which might be a reference to Nixon having given his famous Address to the Nation on the Vietnam War, in which he claimed to have a plan to end the Vietnam conflict. But, as many historians have pointed out, he actually stalled the peace talks and dragged the conflict out for another 5 years. Another presidential reference is that one of Lebowski's framed pictures shows him meeting Ronald Reagan's wife. So that's 3 presidents who are in ideological opposition to the Dude. Walter's character is apparently based in part on John Milius, the war-obsessed film director. For those of you who don't know about him, he was a fairly good scriptwriter, but he was extremely pro-US imperialism. Walter's consistent ordering of Donnie to shut the fuck up is likely a hint of fascist suppression. He also insists on political correctness.
Also, dude, Chinaman is not the preferred nomenclature. Asian American, please.
Yet he resorts to comments verging on racism when it pleases him.
Bunch of fig eaters wearing towels on their head trying to find reverse on a Soviet tank.
Oh boy, is that today's political western landscape all over. The Dude's character is loosely based upon political activist Jeff Dowd, who was a member of the Seattle Seven, a group of anti-Vietnam War activists. And he mentions this to Maud.
I was one of the authors of the Port Huron Statement. The original Port Huron Statement.
Uh-huh.
Not the compromise second draft. And then you ever hear of the Seattle Seven? That was me.
Saddam Hussein is seen giving out bowling shoes in one of Dude's dream sequences. The visual similarity is undoubtedly connected to an earlier scene in which a Saddam lookalike was spraying deodorant inside the bowling shoes. Likely this is a subtle comment to do with Saddam having been a servant of the West. And we've already noted some of the film's other inferences that the First Gulf War was basically a repeat of the hypocrisy and warmongering of the Vietnam War. Jackie Treehorn describes political advocacy as one of his own specialities. Walter constantly talks about Vietnam, and as he is about to leap out of Dude's car with a machine gun, he shouts, "Let's take that hill." And Walter makes many references to Nazis and calls the lead nihilist an anti-Semite before punching him.
I mean, say what you want about the tenets of National Socialism, dude. At least it's an ethos.
He also shouts, "Achtung, baby," as he throws Lebowski to the floor, as if he sees anyone he dislikes or disagrees with as being a Nazi. Again, that's modern Western political discourse all over. Try having an argument with somebody about politics without being called a Nazi or right-winger or fascist, or calling somebody else that yourself. It's a trap a lot of us have fallen into. The subject of music also pops up repeatedly in the story as conveying different world views, as it does in real life. Dude listens to his chilled-out hippie music, the nihilists have their industrial techno-pop, Lebowski listens to classical, and emphasis is given to musical differences when Dude is in a taxi after his encounter with the Malibu police chief.
Man, come on. I had a rough night, and I hate the fucking Eagles, man.
I don't fucking care. I don't care.
As well as exploring the relationships of different social, political and historical movements, The Big Lebowski also makes use of humour to explore basic flaws in human perception and communication. Characters frequently interrupt each other or speak half sentences before correcting themselves, and sometimes there are several conversations occurring at once, especially between Dude, Walter and Donnie. Most of the time, Donnie barely even knows what the topic of conversation is. Characters also reach the wildest conclusions based upon the most limited evidence. Dude finds a random piece of paper in his car, which may have been left there by whoever stole his car. Looking at the details of the notes, it's just a school essay which has been marked. From the scribbled notes on that paper, he and Walter come to the ridiculous conclusion that a 15-year-old kid named Larry Sellers is in possession of the stolen money. Outside Larry's house, Dude sees a sports car parked in the road which has nothing to do with the house they've come to visit.
That kid's already spent all the money, man.
Even after the insane events at the Sellers house, Dude tells Walter over the phone.
No, Walter, it did not look like Larry was about to crack.
Why did he think you have it? Who does?
Oh, Larry Sellers, this high school kid, real fucking brat.
There isn't a single character in The Big Lebowski who fully understands what is going on around them, and one of the key factors in this respect is complexity.
Yeah, all right, man. I mean, there are a lot of facets to this, a lot of interested parties. This is a very complicated case, Maude. A lot of ins, a lot of outs, a lot of what have yous, and a lot of strands to keep in my head, man. This could be a lot more complex. I mean, it's not just, it might not be just such a simple, this is a very complicated case, Maude. A lot of ins, a lot of outs.
Dude frequently finds that when he applies his limited intellect in one area, something else immediately goes wrong.
Listening to Buck Owens. Do, get out
The characters of Big Lebowski get their facts wrong far more often than they get them right, and pretty much everyone gets their premature assumptions thrown back in their face.
That poor slut kidnapped herself. Come on, dude, you said so yourself.
Man, I said I thought she kidnapped herself. You're the one who's so fucking certain.
That's right, dude. 100% certain.
Well, I guess the fucking nihilist knew where she was.
Jesus, dude, she never even kidnapped herself.
This guy fucking walks. I've never been more certain of anything in my life.
I'm too, baby.
We want some money, Lebowski.
Look, pal, there never was any money. The Big Lebowski gave me an empty briefcase, so take it up with him, man.
The story is even kickstarted by the moronic thugs mistaking the down-and-out Dude for his millionaire nemesis.
Do you see a wedding ring on my finger? Does this place look like I'm fucking married?
You're not dealing with morons here.
Another example of perceptual limitation and communication breakdown is the utter confusion experienced by the characters when they try to understand one another's behaviour. They are so stuck in their own realities that everybody else's worldview seems alien.
What the fuck is with this guy? Who is he?
Knox Harrington, the video artist.
New characters, as they are introduced to the storyline, are frequently greeted with some variation of the "who the fuck" question.
It's what you do, Lebowski.
Who the fuck are you, man? Who the fuck is Arthur Digby Sellers?
Who is this gentleman, dude?
Who am I? Who the hell is he? Who am I?
Who the fuck are the Knutsons? Who the fuck are you? Why are you following me around?
I'm a brother Seamus.
Like an Irish monk?
What the fuck are you talking about?
And there are lots of other examples of this confusion between unfamiliar characters. Larry Sellers is dumbfounded when he meets Walter and the Dude. Donnie has a look of terror on his face as he watches the eccentric dance performance of Dude's landlord, which Walter is also lost for words in describing.
Anyway, we'll go there after the what have you.
The rich Lebowski is also unable to comprehend that the dude could possibly have any philosophical outlook other than laziness. Even familiar characters confuse the hell out of one another. When Dude quotes Lennon in the bowling alley, Donnie thinks he's talking about John Lennon.
Oh, yeah.
I am the walrus.
Shut the fuck up, Donnie. V.I. Lenin. Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov.
What the fuck is he talking about?
And it's interesting there that Walter uses Lennon's real name. I'll let you go look that one up. To emphasize these false realities, self-contradiction is weaved into many characters' behaviour. Lots of examples of this have already been described in this review, but here's some more. Walter claims he doesn't drive on Shabbos, but when Dude calls him on the Shabbos to pick him up, all he has to do is threaten to quit the bowling team to persuade him. Lebowski tells Dude that every bum's lot in life is his own responsibility, yet he asks Dude for help when the ransom note is delivered. The nihilists claim to believe in nothing, yet they complain that it's not fair that one of their girlfriends gave up her toe in order to acquire the ransom money. Walter tells Smokey,
Smokey, this is not Nam. This is bowling. There are rules.
Hey, Walter, come on.
but then he pulls a gun on Smokey mid-game, as if it is Vietnam. And when Dude tells him,
Just take it easy, man.
he replies with the idiotic retort.
Calmer than you.
Lebowski accuses Dude of looking for a handout, refers to himself as an achiever, and also states,
I hope that someday my wife will learn to live on her allowance, which is ample.
but we find out from Maud that what money Lebowski has is actually given to him as an allowance by his own daughter. Walter has the bright idea of keeping the entire $1 million ransom money, but when accused of this by Lebowski, he says,
As if we would ever dream of taking your bullshit money!
overall, the characters of this movie are so stuck in their own delusional realities that productive communication is near impossible. As Maud and Knox Harrington chat with their friend over the phone in a different language, giggling away, Dude stands with drink in one hand and Autobahn album in the other, totally baffled. Most likely they're laughing about the plan to use him to get Maud pregnant. When Lebowski asks Dude,
You don't go out looking for a job dressed like that, do you? On a weekday?
Dude reveals that he doesn't even know what day it is.
What day is this?
Despite his frequent confusion, the Dude manages to crack the case of the missing money. He was already along the right lines early in the story when he quoted Lennon.
You look for the person who will benefit, and, I
am the walrus.
you'll, you know what I'm trying to say?
I am the walrus.
The only info he really needed was Maud's revelation that Lebowski had no money of his own, but unfortunately he had to navigate a maze of twists and turns to get that information.
A lot of strands to keep in my head, man. You know, a lot of strands in old Duder's head.
But then on the other hand, he might have been wrong in this too. We aren't actually given any proof that the briefcase of money was empty.
Where's the money, Lebowski? You want that money, Lebowski? Bunny says you're good for it. Where's the money, Lebowski? Where's the money, Lebowski? Where's the fucking money, shithead?
Oh, man. So, she's back. No thanks to you.
Where's the fucking money, Lebowski?
And here's one last example of characters' plans going to pot, and it's quite a subtle but amusing one. In the silly ransom note, it appears that the authors started off by chopping out full words from individual newspapers to form the initial three-word sentence. But after struggling to find the word bunny, they impatiently resorted to forming words out of chopped up syllables. Their impatience gets even greater when they get to the word 20s, which is hastily spelt wrong. And with the very last word, stuff, they've even started cutting out individual letters. And the word funny, which they did manage to find intact, is the largest word on the page. These guys may have been asking for no funny stuff, but funny is exactly what they get plenty of.
What the hell is this?
My dirty undies, dude. Laundry. The whites.
Although Dude comes across as a dunce, what intelligence he does possess is disguised by his limited ability to articulate himself.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm blathering about. I've got information, man. New shit has come to light. And shit, man.
As any wise person knows, even the most fluent academic can be a complete social dunce. Great with words and numbers, but terrible with people. The dude may be a verbal retard, but he's wiser than almost all the other characters in the film.
Lost a little money. Hey, you know what? Forget about it, huh? Forget about it. Yeah, fuck it, man. Can't be worried about that shit. Life goes on, man. Yeah, well, you know, that's just like, your opinion, man.
His dialogue contains nuggets of wise insight which are virtually always mixed in with excessive swearing and mumbling. Due to his limited vocabulary, the dude couldn't stop swearing if he wanted to.
Foundation takes youngsters from Watts.
Shit, yeah, the Achievers.
You have to use so many cuss words.
The fuck are you talking about?
His verbal skills are so limited that he even borrows pieces of dialogue from other characters.
This will not stand. This will not stand, this aggression against Kuwait.
The dude minds. This will not stand, you know? This aggression will not stand, man.
Little matter to me that this woman chose to pursue a career in pornography, nor that she has been banging Jackie Treehorn, to use the parlance of our times.
Look at it, you know, a young trophy wife in the parlance of our times, you know. Excuse me?
I said we cut up your junction!
And we know that this is your homework.
We're gonna cut your dick off, Larry.
You're killing your father, Larry.
He's also about to quote the Cowboys line.
Sometimes you eat the bar and sometimes, you know.
Only to find that the cowboy is sat next to him. It's very easy to assume that most of the dialogue in The Big Lebowski is being ad-libbed due to its disjointed syntax. But a quick glance over the script reveals that the Coen brothers have followed their usual approach of working near enough every detail of the story and dialogue out in advance. The verbal discrepancies were already in the script before the film was shot. And what I really like about the choppy dialogue in this film is that it sounds like real life. Movie scripts are often written with dialogue that is nicely cut into sections between different characters. Characters don't talk over each other, characters are articulate, they don't mumble, and so on. But the way these characters talk in this movie is just like in real life. People are very poor with words very often, they're often lost for words, and they often talk all over each other. And as a result, we get regular failed communication in everyday conversation. For me, this is one of the most valuable and interesting features of The Big Lebowski, and more scriptwriters should learn to write in this way. The Coens are generally very specific and purposeful in their writing of dialogue, and in Big Lebowski there are even more verbal anomalies. For starters, Dude isn't the only character who uses dialogue that has already been spoken by other characters. Certain lines are repeated by different characters before they even get to meet each other.
So what the fuck are you talking about?
What the fuck are you talking about? The Chinaman is not the issue here, dude.
Your wife owes
My
money.
wife is not the issue here.
Just take it easy, man.
You know, that's your answer for everything, dude.
Oh, fuck it.
Oh, fuck it. Yes, that's your answer. That's your answer to everything.
Keep your ugly fucking gold-bricking ass out of my beach community.
Who am I? Who am I? I'm the guy that's gonna kick your phony gold-bricking ass. That's who I am.
And this guy's a fake. A fucking gold breaker.
Stay away from me, mister. I will not abide another toe.
Yeah, well, the dude abides.
Being that some of these people have never met before but speak similar dialogue, it seems that their own verbal habits have been defined by broader social influences, so that each of them effectively become like parrots, repeating thoughts handed out subconsciously to them by others rather than having original thoughts of their own. And it's spot on too. Real life is full of people whose general conversation consists largely of catchphrases that they've read in newspapers, seen on TV, or have noticed are popular in everyday conversation and are therefore socially safe things to say. To say or even just think something truly personal and out of the ordinary feels like too much of a risk for them. It's also interesting that Dude often refers to himself in the third person, which implies an ongoing self-reflection that perhaps is lacking in other characters of the story, with the notable exception of the Jesus.
But you're not fooling me, man. You might fool the fox in the league office, but you don't fool Jesus.
While researching this review, I stumbled across a very good article by Lisa Donald at LebowskiTheory.com, and it brought certain things to my attention. Here I shall borrow a few observations from Lisa and build upon them. The theme in question is the modern gender role crisis. Since the 1960s, the feminist movement has brought much greater freedom of personal choice to the lives of women, while at the same time demolishing the male role as family breadwinner. This social change is now so ingrained that when taking declining wages into account during the same period, the options for a woman to devote herself full-time to the motherhood role has been ironically removed. In most families now, both husband and wife must be employed to maintain a viable income. And in some households, the man stays home and looks after the kids. For men, the sense of self-importance and masculinity associated with being the breadwinner has been lost, and this is portrayed consistently in The Big Lebowski. Maud Lebowski represents the modern woman with her newfound strength, independence and abilities. She introduces herself by flying naked over the dude's head and near scaring the hell out of him. Considering the timing of this act, it would seem that she actually planned this in advance as a way of throwing her sexuality in the dude's face, as men do to women in pornographic videos. Why else would she choose to be naked for this activity? The script also describes the leather harness as, quote, giving her a dominatrix look, end quote. She also splashes paint on both dude's face and the spread-legged figure in her painting, her equivalent of the facial ejaculation money shot seen in many porn videos. She then gives dude a rag to wipe his face.
Now, your face.
This is quite simply sexual humiliation reversal. Maud discusses sexuality with a frankness that leaves no room for male illusions of masculine superiority.
Does the female form make you uncomfortable, Mr. Lebowski?
Is that what this is a picture of?
In a sense, yes. My art has been commended as being strongly vaginal, which bothers some men. The word itself makes some men uncomfortable. Vagina. It's a male myth about feminists that we hate sex. It can be a natural, zesty enterprise. Uli Kunkel, her co-star in the Beaver picture?
You mean vagina? I mean, you know the guy?
Maud comes off as the most confident and assertive character in the film. She seems more clued up about the complexities of the story than anyone else, although she doesn't quite figure out that her father stole the $1 million himself, if that's actually what happened. In a true reversal of pornographic stereotypes, Maud has the dude medically assessed and then sleeps with him not for enjoyment, but simply to get herself pregnant. Just as men tend to seek out physically attractive women, in other words, healthy women who are good for making babies. She then tells him frankly that she doesn't want to have any social contact with the father once the baby is born. For once in cinema, we are seeing a man being used and discarded as a sexual object by a woman. And in Dude's bedroom is a book called Being and Nothingness by Jean-Paul Sartre, a philosophy book about individuality and free will, which contains some interesting and somewhat cynical theories on sexuality. Dude makes some very subtle verbal references about Maud's male replacement role. Particularly, he refers to her as a man.
Hey, man, why don't you fucking listen occasionally? You might learn something. No, man, she hit me right here.
It was actually a man who was with Maud that hit Dude in the face. My favourite visual set piece of the movie is Maud's studio, and it's full of interesting metaphors related to her quest to overcome patriarchy through artistic expression. As Dude sits chatting with her, we see an adult-sized mannequin head inside a womb. Is this saying something about the dude himself? She has a big picture of a woman's body being measured, probably a statement on the measure of a woman's value being based on her physique. There are headless and limbless mannequin torsos, one of which she's attached a penis to. Another has swinging tassels attached to bleeding nipples, and another has cooking sieves as breast cups. Note that Maud also brings on set a sieve and other kitchen utensils in a paper bag, along with a fresh mannequin. There are mannequin legs hanging from the ceiling, there's a female mannequin head attached to a canvas of swirling colour, and a mannequin's head and shoulders are sticking out of a tall pink box. Unfortunately, we don't get to see any close-ups of all the other fascinating things in the background, but on the whole, Maud's art reminds me of the early works of French artist Niki de Saint-Phalle, who Maud even looks like. I saw an exhibition of Niki de Saint-Phalle's work a couple of years ago, and it was a disturbing but fascinating experience. Basically, her work chronicles her psychological journey to overcome early sexual abuse from her father, and Maud has issues with her father too.
Yeah, but
I'm getting to your rug. My father and I don't get along. He doesn't approve of my lifestyle, and needless to say, I don't approve of his.
Although Maud speaks with disdain for the lifestyle of Bunny Lebowski, Bunny is an equally strong woman in terms of her control over men. Like Maud flying around naked in her studio, the last shot of Bunny shows her running around naked by the Lebowski swimming pool. In a metaphor of ultimate sexual reversal, she tells Dude in her introductory scene to blow her recently polished toenails, and then offers herself at a price.
I'll suck your cock for $1,000.
She also obviously married for money, and does exactly what she wants with her life. When DeFino shows Dude a black and white photo of the snowbound ranch where Bunny grew up, we are perhaps being offered a metaphor of the modern, independent woman's relationship to the past. The chances of today's women willingly returning to the old housewife role are remote in the extreme. They're too busy enjoying their modern freedoms. In comparison to these tough females, the men in Big Lebowski are weaklings. Dude, Walter and Donnie are all single guys with nothing better to do than go bowling, which isn't the most masculine sport. Donnie and the Dude's landlord are especially passive, while Walter is crippled by an obsession with his ex-wife. He even pretends to be Jewish so that he can still see her socially.
You know, it's all a part of your sick Cynthia thing, man. Taking care of her fucking dog, going to her fucking synagogue. You're living in the fucking past.
Jackie Treehorn obviously pays for sex and talks of the brain as the most erogenous zone, yet he sketches a picture of a man with a huge penis while talking on the phone. He also talks of 100% electronic stimulation for some strange reason, but Dude tells him,
well, I still jerk off manually.
As if he is proud to masturbate. In the police chief's office, he states,
Mr. Treehorn treats objects like women, man.
Dude himself is an interesting paradox in terms of gender role. He doesn't seem to suffer the same masculinity crisis as the other characters, yet he seems to abstain from relationships.
First of all, dude, you don't have an accent.
When Maud asks him if he likes sex, a line which would bring most men to full attention, he simply replies,
I was talking about my rug.
You're not interested in sex?
When she shows him the log jam and porn film, Dude is disinterested.
You can imagine where it goes from here.
He fixes the cable.
Don't be fatuous, Jeffrey.
On the other hand, he succeeds in getting Maud pregnant, but when she presents herself to him half naked with the line,
Love me,
the first words out of his mouth are,
That's my robe.
Dude also constantly wears shorts and sits with his legs spread wide open, which is the opposite of the wheelchair-bound Lebowski who keeps his groin covered. The script makes several references to this, including the following description of Lebowski in his office. Quote, he wears a suit and his hands are clasped in front of his groin. End quote. Lebowski is a sad case of a man totally enslaved by the women in his life and unable to adapt to the feminized world. Maud reveals that all of the family money was her mother's, and she reveals the extent of female control over him in the following line.
Oh, he runs stuff.
We did let him run one of the companies briefly, but he didn't do very well at it.
Lebowski's second marriage to a young sexual trophy wife is a simple but failed attempt to reacquire a masculine superiority role. In the script, Lebowski's final scene where he is thrown to the floor by Walter includes an extra line that is not in the film. Crying on the carpet, his last piece of dialogue is, quote, stay away from me, you bullies. You and these women, you won't leave a man his fucking balls. End quote. This line establishes a definite crossover between the masculinity crisis themes and the threatening of castration by the nihilists. In fact, references to castration and emasculation are very frequent. When Dude first visits Maud's studio, a giant canvas painting of a pair of scissors against a red background is seen on one of her walls. These later show up in Dude's second dream sequence carried by the nihilists, who chase Dude, threatening to cut off his Johnson. Paralleling this, the legs of the figure painted into the canvas have been opening and closing like a pair of emasculating scissors, another gender domination reversal. And elsewhere there are big pictures of women's bodies headless and patched together against red backgrounds, just like the scissors in the painting. As already mentioned, Lebowski is being metaphorically emasculated by the women in his life. The metaphor of Bunny's toe as a penis, which she asks Dude to blow on, could be an implication that the severed toe presented by Lebowski is symbolic of his own severed manhood. Notice that in this scene his groin is covered with a blanket, just as the toe is wrapped in a cloth. This is specified in the script. Lebowski asks Dude in his West Wing,
What makes a man, Mr. Lebowski? Is it being prepared to do the right thing?
and Dude replies,
Sure, that and a pair of testicles.
When Dude is terrified at the prospect of being emasculated by the Nihilists, he shouts at Walter.
I don't need your fucking sympathy, man. I need my fucking Johnson.
The totally unmasculine Donnie then asks,
What do you need that for, dude?
You've got to buck up, man.
Dude almost burning his crotch with a rollie before crashing his car may also be a play on this theme. And in Dude's second dream sequence, he is wearing the TV repairman's outfit that Hungus was wearing in the log jamming porn video. His weird dancing and elongated shadow seems to be emphasizing his crotch, and so is probably symbolizing an erection, his fantasy of sexual masculinity. Another strange sexual recurrence is the frequent references of male rape, a hint of male desperation at using their manhood to dominate each other in the absence of subservient women.
You pull any of your crazy shit with us, you flash a piece out on the lanes, I'll take it away from you and stick it up your ass and pull the fucking trigger till it goes click. I'll fuck you in the ass next Wednesday instead.
Woo! Son, this is what happens when you fuck a stranger in the ass! I fuck you in the ass! I fuck you!
And the last note about the Nihilists, the track listing of their Nailbed album, a title which itself carries a sexual connotation, contains song titles mostly themed around sexual dominance, such as Faking It, Violet You Blue, Beg Me, and Take It In. Again, masculinity in crisis. The themes of gender role overlap symbolically into the aesthetics of bowling. The most obvious communication of this subliminal theme is Dude's dream sequences. In his first dream, while floating above the city, Dude finds himself dragged downwards at high speed toward a city street by the weight of his bowling ball. He's then standing in the gutter of a bowling lane with a giant ball rolling toward him. He is inserted into the bowling ball through the thumbhole and finds that he is being bowled along the lane. Seeing the spinning environment out of the thumbhole, we can just about identify that it is Maud who has rolled the ball. So there may even be a penetration metaphor when he entered the bowling ball. Eventually a strike is made and Dude wakes up. When Dude was punched unconscious just before the dream, he had a quick glimpse of Maud and her two male associates, who, as we later learn, were there to recover Maud's rug. So one way of interpreting this first dream sequence is that the sense of being rolled may have been because Dude's body was physically being rolled off the rug while he was having the dream. Maud's green cloak and stance within the dream is also identical to what Dude saw of her as he was knocked out. And the shot of Maud flying away is likely because Dude subconsciously knew that the carpet was no longer beneath him and was being taken away. The synthesis of bowling in the dream would also be because Dude was still wearing his headphones while unconscious. His Walkman was playing audio of a bowling game when he was knocked out. Notice that the song, The Man in Me, which is another masculinity reference, appears to be part of the soundtrack in the dream, but when Dude wakes up it is actually playing on his Walkman. So much of the content of this dream has been induced by what he could hear through his headphones. Now let's go through the bowling metaphors of the second dream sequence. A skittle floats horizontally on screen from behind a bowling ball, then inserts itself between two golden bowling balls, a simple penetration symbol. The balls then turn to face us as a second skittle floats vertically on screen until we're faced with a blatant symbol of male genitalia. This symbol is then smashed off screen by an invisible force accompanied by the sound of a bowling strike. Almost certainly this is another metaphor of emasculation. When Maud makes her appearance in this dream, she is wearing a Nordic Viking costume, which is her assuming a masculine role. Her breasts are also golden bowling balls, while the dancers have headdresses made out of skittle designs, which sort of looks like they're being smashed by a bowling ball, and that might be a metaphor of bowling strikes as fellatio metaphors. The colours of their costumes also match the skittles. The girls then dance their way into position on the bowling lane, just as skittles are gathered and aligned in between shots. The red stripe around the bottom of their dresses matches the red stripe on the skittles, suggesting that their legs actually represent Skittles. Dude is seen with his hand around Maud's waist, guiding her arm in a bowling maneuver. He is thrusting towards her sexually, and when the ball is thrown, Dude becomes the ball, as he did in the first dream sequence, sexually pushing forward between the dancer's legs and spinning around to look up their skirts. We then switch to Dude's viewpoint as he smashes through the Skittles. In the darkness, a naked woman then falls down the screen, and she's wearing red knickers, or panties as you might call them in America, and this makes another visual association between Skittles and the female body. Finally, the dream turns into a castration nightmare before Dude awakens running down a street. Bowling is very strongly linked to sexuality in these dreams, though the reasons are vague. It could be that for Dude and his buddies, bowling is a substitute expression of masculinity, hence the bowling balls and Skittles seem to be representing male genitals and female bodies. This is supported with more subtlety elsewhere in the film. For example, when Maud flies out of the darkness, naked and at high speed, she is lowered to the ground by her harness just as a Skittle is manoeuvred into place. The script supports this metaphor with the following description of Maud's approach from the darkness. Quote, "We hear a rumble like an approaching bowling ball." End quote. Jesus Quintana also does two things that support the sexual interpretation of bowling. He licks his bowling ball before taking a shot, and he is seen cleaning his bowling ball in a spread-legged stance with the ball hanging directly over his crotch. This is one of the downright strangest shots in the movie. Lebowski's repeated comment that "her life is in your hands" may also be a subliminal reference to the gripping of a bowling ball and its sexual symbolism in the story, though I admit that's a bit vague. Aside from the sexual connotations, there is another symbolic theme linked to bowling. Its presence is communicated in the very first shot in the film. As our view pans up from the desert terrain to reveal the city of Los Angeles, a tumbleweed leaps up from the ground and over the crest of the hill. As it does this, the sound of a bowling ball being rolled along a lane fades in and finishes with the faint crashing noise of a cymbal.
But then again, maybe that's why I found the place so darn interesting.
The shot of Los Angeles shows two parallel streets forming a metaphoric bowling lane tapering off into the horizon. The tumbleweed then makes its way across a bridge and through the city, passing over a sewer cover on its way, and eventually reaching the ocean, at which point Cowboy's narration says,
"So I can die with a smile on my face, without feeling like the good Lord gypped me."
So there seems to be some crossover symbolism here. The tumbleweed represents a person's life drifting through the city of Los Angeles, but it also represents a bowling ball. This ties many elements of the story together nicely. When Dude is asked by Cowboy in the last scene how things have been going, he tells the cowboy,
strikes and gutters, ups and downs.
Sure, I got you.
So bowling is used in this film to represent the life cycle. The smooth ride of a good shot represents the times when life is going our way, and the sink into the gutter represents the times when we're down on our luck. The city streets in the opening shot of Los Angeles are the gutters in which we often fall, as Dude did in his first dream, but the game carries on. Eventually we come out of the gutter and take another shot. And another visual detail to this effect, which could just be coincidental but I don't think so, is the similarity between the path outside Dude's apartment and the section of a bowling lane gutter from where players retrieve their bowling balls. He's even carrying his bowling ball as he runs through this path. The script includes a scene in the last few minutes of the story in which we see Dude and Walter bowling. It says, quote, "We watch each of them glide across the floor, release, follow through, gracefully. We have never seen them bowl before. They are quite good." End quote. This never made it into the film, and so at no point do we see Dude bowling. We do see Donnie take a shot or two, with his second one occurring just before he dies, and we see just one shot of Walter gracefully taking a shot after the failed handoff. And on Donnie's bag there's a symbol which connects bowling with the 60s peace movement, a drawing of a combined bowling ball and an acid face. Thought of in the sense of meditative concentration, Dude and Walter's obsession with bowling and prioritising the league over other seemingly more important issues becomes much more understandable. Bowling is their way of getting through life.
Walter, you're right. There is an unspoken message here. It's fuck you! Leave me the fuck alone! Yeah, I'll be at practice.
The sound of skittles being bounced about in a bowling strike are often used to punctuate sudden visual edits, such as the visualization of Jesus Quintana knocking on doors.
He did 6 months of Chino for exposing himself to an 8-year-old. When he moved to Hollywood, he had to go door to door to tell everyone he was a pederast.
What's a pederast, Walter?
Shut the fuck up, Donnie.
The very last of these punctuates the end of the film, and we cut to end credits. In this film, the Coens have dragged us through the universal strikes and gutters of life, the same strikes and gutters that are faced by all people regardless of their country or generation. With creative flair, sophisticated metaphors and good old-fashioned sense of humour, the Coens are encouraging us to stop running around like headless chickens and just, well, you know, take it easy.